Clinical trials are a key part of the process of developing new treatments for medical conditions. They're essentially research studies, and they involve testing a new treatment in a selected group of people to make sure it is safe and effective before making it available to the general public. Preclinical studies are conducted in the laboratory before clinical trials. They collect drug information and provide a basic idea of how safe and effective the chemical compound or molecule is. During clinical trials, researchers study how well the new treatment works in human beings, and at which doses, and if these doses cause side effects. Often, these new treatments are compared to treatments that have already been approved. Drug manufacturers need to provide this information to regulatory authorities such as the FDA, who then decide whether or not to approve the drug. It's essentially to protect the public from drugs that are not safe and/or ineffective. Governments have strict laws that require drug manufacturers to objectively collect and provide information or evidence about the safety and effectiveness of a new treatment. This information is an absolute must to allow the drug to be approved for use by the general public. These strict laws were first passed in the US in the 1960s. And at the time, they really revolutionized the drug development process because they gave consumer protection organizations such as the Food and Drug Administration much stricter control over the process. A big reason for this change was the thalidomide tragedy of the late 1950s. The manufacturer of this morning sickness drug claimed it was safe for use in pregnant women without having done any tests to prove that. Thalidomide was widely used and ended up causing birth deformities in thousands and thousands of children. We never want this to happen again. So apart from country-specific laws, the international medical community has drawn up ethical research guidelines in agreements such as the Declaration of Helsinki. While we need to develop new treatments, we also need to make sure that we protect the public as an absolute must. Clinical trials are the way we try to do that. So we know that clinical trials test a new treatment in a selected group of people who volunteer to participate. The selection is on the basis of certain criteria. These eligibility criteria help researchers collect good quality information about the effects of the new treatment that they observe during the clinical trial. What that means is that apart from all the study participants having the same medical condition, they also need to be similar enough to each other in other ways. This is so researchers can be more sure that the effects observed in the clinical trial are caused by the new drug being tested and not other factors. So age is often part of eligibility criteria. This means that only patients of a certain age range can participate in a clinical trial. Factors such as disease stage, unrelated medical conditions, and use of certain medications are other examples of criteria used to select suitable trial participants. Testing of the new treatment in the selected group of volunteers is conducted in 4 phases. Each phase of the clinical trial involves an increasing number of participants as more information about the safety and effectiveness of the new treatment is collected. At certain points in the clinical trial, this information may even be shared publicly. In phase 1, the treatment is tested in a small group of participants to determine safety, side effects, and correct dosages. Phase 2 focuses more on effectiveness. Preliminary data on whether the drug works in treating patients with a disease or condition is collected. Phase 2 trials also continue to study safety and side effects. Information collected may be made public by the drug manufacturer. Phase 3 trials are larger trials and study how the drug works in a more diverse population and at different dosages. The number of participants may range from hundreds to several thousand. Information collected up to this point is then used to seek regulatory approval for the drug to be marketed to the general public. Phase 4 of clinical trials is conducted after the drug has received regulatory approval. They monitor a drug's effectiveness and safety in even larger and more diverse populations. If a drug is shown to not be safe or effective during any phase of the clinical trial is stopped. If you think about it in the broader sense, clinical trials are for everyone. Clinical trials add to medical knowledge by carefully guiding the process of developing new treatments, vaccinations, and medical devices, and even contributing to developing and improving new surgical techniques. This depends on the specific trial. Generally speaking, however, clinical trials can involve healthy volunteers as well as patient volunteers. Healthy volunteers usually participate because they want to help to advance medicine. Patient volunteers, on the other hand, participate because they want the opportunity to be treated with a new treatment. For some patients, this is because the standard of care has not worked or has been found to be not suitable. For other patients, there is no standard of care, and the clinical trial is needed to try and develop one. Researchers draw up a plan called a clinical trial protocol, and this contains specific information about what participation in the clinical trial will involve. In general, participation begins with a conversation between you and your physician about potential risks, such as side effects, and potential benefits, such as accessing a new treatment before it becomes widely available. If you decide to participate, your doctor will check to make sure that you match the eligibility criteria of the trial, and then ask the drug manufacturer to enroll you. During enrollment, you will be asked to sign an informed consent form to document that you understand the risks and benefits of participation. It's really important to remember that enrolling in a clinical trial doesn't mean that you will definitely receive the new treatment. Patients with a serious condition who are accepted into a clinical trial are placed into one of two groups. They either receive the new treatment or receive the approved standard of care. This is called randomization. It helps researchers collect information about the new treatment and compare it to the standard of care without favoring one group of patients over another. Often, patients and researchers do not know which group they have been placed in. This is called blinding, and it helps to collect information more objectively or without bias. During the clinical trial, you might need to have tests conducted, and these tests may involve costs. In some cases, the clinical trial may be in a location that requires you to travel. The costs of tests and travel may or may not be covered, and it's important to be aware of them. Side effects, tests, and observations may all require a stay in hospital. This may affect your family and even your work. Let's recap. Clinical trials are research studies that are used to test the safety and effectiveness of new treatments over 4 phases. There are both risks and benefits to participating, which you must discuss with your physician. Clinical trials are designed to be safe, but there are always risks and benefits to receiving a new treatment in a trial. We need clinical trials to safely develop new treatments, new vaccines, and therapeutic techniques to everyone's benefit. We hope you found this video useful. Thanks so much for watching.